ages of 15 to 19. Over 50% of missing persons in this country would be in that category, 15 to 19 years old, over 50%. Last year, out of 940 persons reported missing, 514 were minors. This year, out of 745 reported missing persons in the country, 411 were minors. Just yesterday, I met with the Minister of Education and her team, along with persons from the Victim and Witness Support Unit, the Child Protection Unit, and Ms. Allen from the Gender-Based Violence Unit, to find avenues to see what we can do and work in tandem with the Ministry of Education to deal with this situation, because most of those missing minors reported missing were actually persons that will be in school. Most of the, if you just look here, we can look at on the screen. You'll actually, and this will be given to the media. In 2019, as you will see there, 514 out of the 940 missing persons last year, persons between the ages of 15 to 19. The most reported missing are persons who actually left without informing their family. So, and again, can go back now to the data in 2018, 711 out of 785 persons returned home, 820 out of 940 last year, and this year 598 out of 745, which means that you're looking at roughly 90 to 95% of persons who were reported missing are actually persons who left on their own and just did not want to be found. And we go to the big one as it pertains to females, and you could go ahead, as it pertains to females. In 2018, 427 out of 785, 54% of missing persons reported were female. Last year, 535 out of 940, 56%. And this year, 416 out of 745, 55%. So there's been no jump in the number of females reported missing. And this is not a line that we heard years ago about a decrease in the increase in crime. There's been a massive decrease in the number of missing persons in this country. If we look at those reported, it was 785 in 2018, 940 last year, and 745 this year. So it's a decrease of nearly 200 less persons missing reported last year than this year. Females reported last year, reported missing 535 to 416. A decrease of 129 females less than last year. As it pertains to persons who have been killed, reported missing, there's been a 50% decrease from 31 last year to 18 this year. And just as I said, there's been no spike or increase, it is just the opposite. But obviously we see a major concern here where many persons, they are reported missing, but it's because they just do not want to be found. Yesterday alone, there were two situations. One actually said she left because of personal mental issues. She just wanted to get away. Another said that she couldn't get in contact with her family because of the breakdown of the internet. The fact, what I'm bringing to your attention here is this is all irrelevant to the police service. There are some action items, and I think what the public needs to understand is what we intend to do. We are very well aware of this serious matter, because as much as I have now been able to show the reality and the facts that there's been a massive reduction in missing persons. Most of the persons who are reported missing usually are the persons who do not want to be found. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we intend to deal with this matter seriously. So I was just bringing the data, just again to bring to the attention of the public, to put it into perspective. But this is not in any way to trivialize a very serious matter. And the same way we took a lot of effort, emphasis to dealing with child protection, victim and witness support, gender-based violence, elderly, and sexual offences unit to be formed shortly, we intend to put a lot of emphasis to deal with missing persons. And this is not a knee-jerk situation. I am going to show action items of things that we have achieved, that we are doing, and that we intend to do with immediate effect. So before I go into the action items of what we intend to do to deal with the serious concern about missing persons, and also dealing with the concern as it pertains to violence against females and children, I will now ask the DCP Intelligence and Investigations, Mr. Jacob, to address us as it pertains to the investigative and operational aspects when we have situations of reports of missing persons. Mr. Jacob.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thanks very much, Commissioner of Police. It is important for us to recognize the importance of the whole aspect of missing persons. And for us to really appreciate it, we need to go back a bit. Before 2005, the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service normally will wait until after 24 or 48 hours before we document someone as a report of a missing person. However, with the advent, and at that time we had an increase in kidnapping for ransom, the police service at that time found it was necessary to move away from the 24-48 hours situation and deal with a report of a missing person immediate. Thus, if someone checked the data before 2005, you will see that the numbers were very low, because our data here will show that the majority of persons, when they are reported missing, within 48 hours you will get the clearance, meaning to say more than likely they will return home, at least 85% of the persons. But because of the whole aspect in doing investigations today, it is necessary that when the report is made, we deal with it and document it as a report of a missing person immediate, without waiting for that time period. So that is the reason why at this stage we will see the numbers are looking very high, but also our clearance rate is also high in relation to the persons returning home. So we must understand that. What we wish to make the plea for a lot of the young persons, because some of the numbers we are giving are persons who are chronic runaways, meaning to say that there are young persons under the age of 18, and when you check the data, you will see that they run away from home 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Every time the report is made, it is documented and registered as a new report. Therefore, additional work needs to be done within the family and within the communities as it relates to these young persons. I know that persons from our gender division will be dealing with that and looking at the chronic runaways so that they can be treated within a particular manner. What the outcome of that at times, again, is the whole aspect of the aspect of human trafficking. Some indicate because these persons are missing is human trafficking. However, when you look at some of the persons who are still outstanding, it is in fact persons who are above the age of 40, some of them above the age of 50, and are male persons. And we are quite aware that internationally, the persons who are human trafficking, we know the age group, and we know most of the time it is involving females. So again, when we look at the data, we must be able to analyze it before we come to conclusions. If you check some articles recently, they just refer to the number of persons reported missing. They did not refer to the number of persons who returned home and the period of time they returned home. Therefore, it creates a sort of alarmist situation within our country as it relates to persons who are reported missing. So again, we are pleading, especially to the chronic runaways, their families, let us deal with it so that we will not create this situation in Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jacob. So as I said, even though we see a 90 to 95% of missing persons and there's been an actual decrease, we have action items that we intend to do to ensure we can be as effective as possible. DCP Jacob just mentioned one, which was that in the past there was a 48-hour wait, but sometimes 48 hours, even sometimes 1 hour could be the difference between life and death. But I would just like to make mention, when you have a situation now of 745 cases this year, 600 were situations not of persons missing, but they just didn't want to be found. What it means, however, is immediately in each of the 745 cases, the anti-kidnapping unit, they immediately act. They initiate the proper protocols, the standard operational procedures, and they move immediately. But it meant that 600 of those persons left on their own. They were not in danger. There was no crime committed. They did not want to be found. But we have to act because you never know when, I mean, just as what happened last year, 31 persons were killed when they were missing. So we have to operate immediately. So we have ignited that type of operation where there's no longer that wait. But I really want to bring to the attention of the public. It takes immense hours of police work and investigation to deal with such situations, and then to find out that the person really, he or she they were unharmed. There was no concern. But because of these standard operational procedures that we have ignited, we are left with no choice, and we will continue to operate in that manner. As it pertains to people who are concerned of the actions of the police, even with the unfortunate death of Shanti. You would have seen it on the newspaper articles where the police service, they were actually commended, where the family thanked the AKU and the Northeastern Division Police for their assistance during that very traumatizing week. So yes, there is that perception, and it is created that there's been a massive increase. But I could just give certain situations of over the years concerning missing persons reports, what will cause it. Sometimes on many young persons, they run away after disputes with parents or guardians. There are many cases where girls are reported missing, but are then found in homes of other men, mature women escaping abusive homes, genuine reports of abduction, which end badly if bodies are found. Some persons run away hoping not to be found for one reason or the other. And then they have several reports going back years. So we have launched this standard operational procedure to ignite an immediate response if at any time someone's missing. But as I said, it takes a lot of man hours where we have to go out there trying to find the individual. But we will do it to the best of our ability. There's another avenue that I intend to make public now, and it has to do with, again, getting the public on board. There's always this perception that the police, we can be everywhere, we can do everything. 7,000 police officers, one-third of them guarded police stations and whatever. It is virtually impossible for the police to stop a situation of someone missing, being abducted or kidnapped on that spot. But there's no such thing as the perfect crime. There's always going to be a situation where persons would have seen something, and this is where we try to plead as much as possible with the public. If you see something, say something. We have ignited a situation now where at any time when there is a situation of missing persons, we are going to we have contacted several agencies where we'll be using a missing persons picture board in specific areas around the country. This is an example. This is in Walmart. Persons who would have gone to Walmart to shop and wherever in the United States. So this board would have a system where we'll have all the photos of missing persons. And this is proven to be very effective to try to find missing persons. Sometimes the persons, they did not want to be found. They were hiding, they escaped, but it's still a record in the police service, and it is traumatizing the family. So this here can be a very effective avenue to assist the police service in trying to bring some degree of closure. And it can mean not just trying to find individuals who they don't want to be found, but if at any time there may be a situation where someone was abducted, they went into a vehicle, they were talking to someone may have seen that photo of that, but may have seen that individual, and by doing that, bringing this to the attention of the police can play a very big part towards us trying to remove that person from being reported as a missing person, whether it is that person left on their own or whether it is that person was abducted by being lured by an individual into a vehicle. So we have spoken to Massey, True Value, Extra Food, and a few other supermarkets and agencies where we'll be putting these billboards on the back for persons. If you see something, say something. If you see the missing persons, bring it to our attention. Some supermarkets ask what it is they're getting for it. I think that is very unfortunate. This is not about what you're getting for it. We are asking the public to come on board, and if any other organization where there's a heavy flow of pedestrian traffic, that's why we're putting it mostly at supermarkets and places like this where they can assist us, because people will be in those areas and they will be able to see and then be able to pinpoint that I would have seen that person at a specific place at a specific time. We'll also be using electronic billboards, social media, and also advertisements in newspapers as much as possible to push forward these photographs to bring to the attention of the public to see if they can assist the police service. There's also a third operational plan has to do, again, this is something that started months now, and if we can just change it now, it has to do with Ttps app. The TTPS app is an avenue that can be used if you get onto the TTPS app. Once that SOS button is activated, your phone automatically contacts your predetermined emergency contacts that you would have put previously, as well as the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service Operational Command Center. And from here, the TTPS will attempt to contact you or your predetermined contacts. If we can't, your phone will then be tracked using the system. So this is an avenue that can be used using the TTPS SOS app. I ask the public to try to get on board, use it. It can be the difference between life and death if it is that it is properly used. Fourth operational plan is a very controversial system, but I have done immense research. It is good that the Honorable Prime Minister, when speaking about the view as it pertains to pepper spray, he said he is going to speak to security experts. Well, if it comes to qualification, training experience, I think I'm about the top there. So as one of the main security experts in this country, I can state emphatically that pepper spray can save lives, especially that females. There is a system we have here, unfortunately, that it is seen as a prohibited item. And this is not to say that the pepper spray can be be-all and end-all. I have heard comments that they say that the criminal elements might use the pepper spray. But in this environment we have in this country, I mean, if a criminal element has a firearm, a cutlass, or a pepper spray, I prefer he use the pepper spray. However, I do understand the Prime Minister's concern and others of it getting in the wrong hands and being used in the wrong manner. But it does not take away the fact I have done immense research around the world. Pepper spray has proven to be very instrumental to save many females from being killed, raped, or kidnapped. Because what it is an avenue of escape. It is not an avenue to hurt or harm anyone. But this year, a simple system like this can be very effective to save women. Because all you need is one spray, and that one spray can have that individual in such an uncomfortable position, it gives that female that opportunity to escape. Pepper spray is non-lethal. As I said, I have done research to 23 different countries around the world, Italy, Japan, North America, and pepper spray is very effective that can save lives. This is not to say that every single situation it is going to save the life of a female. The last two very unfortunate situations it may not have. But I can tell you that if one female can escape and not be raped, not be kidnapped, not be killed because of a criminal element that I will refer to as a cockroach, and people are upset about that. But the focus here is this. This here can save the lives of women. And what I intend to do is, obviously, as it is a prohibited item, as the Commissioner of Police, I would make a recommendation to the Attorney General to see if it is that approval can be given for me as the Commissioner of Police to have it regulated. So I understand the Prime Minister's concern, and he is correct. We do not want this to get in the hands of everyone. But what I'm recommending is that this year can be a regulated item where it is registered for each and every person who wants to get pepper spray. You have it registered. So it is similar if this is considered a firearm. Just as you have a firearm user's license, we have it regulated and registered to make sure that persons who have it, they sign for it, and we know who has it. And that will minimize as much as possible criminal elements having it. But it is something that is very effective. It works, and it can cause women to be able to escape in time. I can give an example, Mr. Jacob? All right, well, I guess not. Apart from pepper spray, there's another very interesting point that I would also like to bring as it pertains to firearms. 95% of persons who apply for firearms are men. I do not know why. I should think it should be 50-50. But there's, for some strange reason, people, I don't know what is the reason for it, but just to inform all women in this country that there's nothing against a woman having a firearm. A firearm is something that can be an asset to you. There's no need to be fearful of a firearm. Firearms do not kill people. People kill people. A firearm should not be something that should be so sensitive that you feel you do not want it. As the Commissioner of Police, I have been pushing heavily to provide citizens with their rights. If the state cannot fully protect you, and for obvious reasons, we can't give you the assurance that we can. We are doing all that we can through the government, through the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and other arms of national security. But it is your right to bear arms. It is your right to defend yourself. It's your right to protect you, your assets, your loved ones. And that's why before my tour of duty, there were just about 150 to 200 firearms being issued per annum. I have now pushed it to over 1,500, but there are over 30,000 applicants. I'm doing as much as possible whilst ensuring that it will not be signed into the wrong hands. But because of that, I am also, so apart from the use of pepper spray and being issued especially to women, I'm also making it known that women can and should apply if they feel that it can be of value to them. If they feel that they are responsible, they are mature enough, and they feel that there's a risk to them. I do have a concern by seeing applications of 95% of firearms application being that for men. 19 out of every 20 application, men apply for it. A firearm is not a man thing. A firearm is something that should be used for law-abiding citizens to protect themselves. Just before I close and open for questions, it has really been unfortunate that we have been seeing persons with what has taken place over the last few weeks trying to blame the police. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, we are doing all that we can. Yes, there's been a massive reduction in missing persons. There's been a massive reduction in homicides, rape, kidnapping, grievous bodily harm, and every other major crime in this country. There have been 135 less murders this year compared to the same time last year. And to the security experts who claimed that it is because of COVID, I guess that the two cold-blooded sick persons who killed Ashanti and other women in this country, I guess they missed that memo. Because if you claim that COVID is an avenue to prevent crime, what went on with Ashanti and everything else? The fact of the matter is that this country, we are not perfect, neither is the police service, but we are doing all that we can. So I ask the public, please understand, we are trying our best. We need your support. We need your information to help us to help you. So when it is you see comments such as the deaths of the two ladies recently, and then people trying to blame the police by saying because we are busy investigating DSS, or because we are patrolling the beach to protect persons from not being killed because of COVID and to make sure persons adhere to our law. Just to put it into perspective, the DSS matter is a situation where tens of millions of dollars we need to account for. And 5 police officers are doing an investigation of DSS. But people are saying because we are investigating DSS, it is what caused the death of these two men. Or the beach, or because the police are patrolling the beach to make sure people wear masks, to make sure others will not be killed. 5 police officers on the beach, that is what would have caused the death, because we are misdirecting our resources. So just to clarify, when police officers deal with DSS, they are under the white-collar crime unit. They would not have been on patrol anywhere else. And I think it's going to be, the law of probability is going to be very low that those 5 officers, had they not been investigating DSS, they would have been at a corner, at a street, at a trace in the middle of the night to make sure that when 2 men decided to do something to kill an innocent lady, that the police officer would have been there at that spot, at that time when it took place. It does not work that way. So rather than us trying to find mistakes and faults with the police service to blame us, we are doing all that we can. We need to try to find a way. I mean, I know it is the easy avenue that everything that goes wrong in our country, you blame the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. The West Indies lost to New Zealand 2-1, blame the police service. Vasan Bharat get like 7-1, blame the police service. Manchester United is going to qualify for the Champions League, so all the Man U haters blame the police service. We have to really put an end to it. Trying to find blame for the police service for everything. We will take blame if blame is really due, but we are doing all that we can. And just before I close, I want to give a quick example as it pertains to domestic violence. Because when we look at domestic violence, this year, 46 females have been killed. 21 domestic violence. 21. And you know the police, we are blamed. In the 21 cases of females killed via domestic violence, not one neighbor, not one relative, not one friend, not one employee of any of those 21 ever came forward to give information and report it to the police. Not one. But as soon as the person is killed, every neighbor, relative, friend, family member, ma, pupa, they find Sensi 3 and TV6 cameras and scream that they knew this was going on for years. So when it is that we blame the police service, I ask some of us, we need to really look in the mirror and understand our own responsibility as a citizen of this great country. Because we are not mind readers as the police officers. But if you see a situation with a woman being battered, bruised, traumatized, and it's not domestic violence from physical abuse, mental abuse, psychological abuse, and you there, and you're not saying anything, you never reported it, you have now shirked your responsibility as a law-abiding citizen. So when I ask the public to help us, rather than blame the police, because we are not mind readers, we are not Mandrake, the magician, we can only help persons if you all help us. So the neighbors who continue to open their window and the people, they're hearing things, bring it to our attention. The employees who will see the woman come into work bruised, or the family members who are aware of it, the friends who are aware of it. You can't continue to say nothing and then after it happens, you want to speak about how long this has been going on. For us to put an end to domestic violence or to reduce domestic violence and abuse against females and children and elderly and animals, we only have 8,000 police officers, but we have 1.4 million eyes and ears, pairs of eyes and ears of law-abiding citizens in this country. And this, if we want to put an end to this, I am asking the public to open, embrace, and work with the police service. You give us the information, you help us to help you. If you see something, say something. When you have a situation of 21 women being killed, and not one neighbor, family member, relative, friend, employee was able to send one message to say that I am aware that this is what was taking place. And you see it all the time. After it happens, they claim that the police were told. And when we check, not one report by anyone. Because up to this day, I have still asked for all the people who continue to make these statements, show me the receipt and tell me which officer you spoke to. It did not take place. And that's the reports that I have. So all I'm asking is that let those deaths not be in vain. Let us try to move forward as a great country to work together to put an end to the situation we have of a serious problem as it pertains to missing persons and abuse against females and children. With that, questions open for the mayor, please.
Commissioner, good day. Charlie Rampersad from CNC3 News. You're speaking about domestic violence matters, right? I spoke to somebody this morning who actually lives in La Brea, and she said over the weekend she would have been, for the last couple of weeks, she was held captive in her own home by her boyfriend. On Sunday, some of her friends came and got her, took her to the La Brea police station. She said she tried to make a report, she was never given a receipt, none of her information was taken down in any logbook in the station. When she left La Brea, because she says that the police officer she spoke to, she believes is a friend of her boyfriend, right? So they left La Brea and they went to Guapo. She said when they got to Guapo, it was a similar situation. They told them La Brea would forward the report. She was also told that gender-based violence unit would contact her. Today is Tuesday, nobody has contacted her. So she's hiding out right now.
Sure.
What are citizens to do in situations like that? Because she tried to make the reports.
No, okay, thank you. No, when I formed the gender-based violence unit was to deal specifically with this. As I said, the police service, we are perfect. I am not going to have 7,000 to 8,000 police officers and each and every one of them will understand that you cannot be abusive to any human being in this country, in this society, man, woman. And that is why it is similar to other countries. We formed a specialized unit of persons who understand how this works to ensure that you have trained police officers who can understand the importance of confidentiality, the sensitive nature of such situations, so that that unit will have the proper training and capability to investigate, enforce, and to make sure we have proper deterrence. But with that situation, I'll now ask Ms. Allen, please.
Yes, good morning again. I saw it this morning on Facebook and we have acted on it immediately. So she would be contacted by a gender-based violence officer.
Okay, and may I also add, I would like to bring to the attention again to the public, we have to do some heavy marketing. I'm trying to get the country out of a lot of situations. People, it is very rare, persons, we're still in this situation of trying to make reports to police stations. This is why we have 999. This is why we now have online reporting. So, Charlene, when it is that you have online reporting, it cannot be erased, it cannot be removed, it cannot be trivialized. So, when you put online reporting, you are not going to have a situation of a police officer who may be a friend of a possible suspect or a police officer who doesn't understand the importance of gender-based violence and he's going to trivialize it or basically try to blame the victim, what do you call, not victim? Survivor, yeah, sorry. I'll get in there. And you trying to get them to understand. So when you put online reporting, it is locked in and it immediately is triggered to the gender-based violence unit. So we are trying to get citizens away from the situation with police stations. I mean, right now we're having this big debate about police stations being shut down. So what we are pushing, again, we have to do some more marketing to get the public to understand and be aware. It is happening right now in the United Kingdom. Online reporting, you press 999. Person should not have to go to a police station. Going to a police station, that is what you call as 19th century policing. You go online reporting, it has to be dealt with. You call 999, it is locked, and you have an immediate response. But I will speak to you after to get further information on that incident.
Good afternoon, Vivian Bowen, Caribbean Lifestyle Communications. How does the Ttps deal with a case where the person is reported missing, but 2 days later, they return quietly? I am asking this question because, a lot of times it is given to the media that the person is missing, but when the person is returned, a lot of times it is hardly told. Right? It's not reported again. So I think this also got to the sensationalism. So I would want to know what is done when the person returns quietly.
We need to protect the individual and as it relates to confidentiality. And there may be situations that occur that we will not want to bring it out in public. We will deal with it, and sometimes the person is referred and dealt with in a particular manner. So we will say that the person returned, but more than likely you may not get the information about why the person had left, because we need to deal with it in a particular manner.
Okay, well, I think that brought me to the next question. Quantitative data is great, but does the Ttps keep qualitative data to determine what are the more prominent reasons persons run away and sometimes even returned?
Right. Yes, our crime reporting system, our records management database, in fact, all that information is placed on that database and it is actually linked to that particular report. Therefore, there are certain officers with particular privilege who can go in and get that qualitative information. So therefore, for the purpose of analysis of the police service and to provide that information to our gender unit so that they will be aware of what is happening, that information will be documented. But we'll hardly make that information public.
Cool. But from a general perspective, you give at least 3 reasons, 3 are the more prominent reasons why people, especially teenage group that we spoke about, that they more or less run away and go missing, or as the commissioner say, they don't want to be found. 2 or 3 are the more prominent reasons.
The commissioner, in fact, gave about 5 different reasons or more why persons will run away. And in some instances, when these reports are made, there is a continued investigation because some persons may have additional reports made because they may be being violated. And when they return and the police get involved, we need to do additional investigation. Some of the reports that you are seeing now coming from the gender unit where they charge persons for different sexual offenses. In some instances, it came out of the persons running away from home. Sometimes persons will run away from home, they leave home and they will just go to Big One Line for 2 days with their friends. There are several different reasons. Sometimes they just leave because of some problem at home and they fail to communicate. Yeah. So these are the sort of things that is happening, and that is the reason why we are making the plea to persons. The amount of effort need to be put into the policing when the report is made. If we do a cost analysis, we will see what it takes. So we are asking persons to desist from that method because it will affect the amount of time and energy the police need to go into in their investigation. Okay.
Hi. Good morning, Darren Baho from the Newsday. Commissioner, Ms. Alleyne or Mr. Jacob, in our society, I don't know if you will agree with me, women are heckled, catcalled, they're told all sorts of vile comments while walking on Asian streets. Sometimes those comments come from people in uniform, sometimes it comes from on block. How are women to feel safe and secure walking the streets? Sometimes what they do, they plug on their earphones just not to hear these very obscene remarks made about them and their bodies. And how can, part of your efforts to empower women to become more confident and make reports. Sometimes the very people that they make the reports to are those who say some of these comments to them. What advice would you give to those women?
Well, first thing, I'll go right back to what I just said when I spoke to Charlene. If you put it online, you go online reporting, through the online reporting, there's no way that it can be shifted from any other unit other than a unit with trained persons from whatever the unit would be, gender-based violence unit, with child protection unit. And it's not just women, it's also children, it's also elderly. So we obviously have a problem here, Darren, and the problem is society. We have a serious problem in society of how we respect persons in this country. There's an immediate degree of hate, bitterness, animosity, and anytime there's someone that may try to bring some degree of hope, belief, trust, that person must be ridiculed, destroyed. And it goes to the same with how certain men treat women, how certain men deal with children, how men and others deal with elderly. This is the only country in the world that the police service rescued dozens of elderly women from cages. And I was condemned for it. That is the reason we're reaching our society. Because we have now lost the value and understanding that these people are human beings. They try to devalue the individual because of their race, their religion, their ethnic composition, or in fact, whether it is you're female or child or elderly. And we have a serious problem in society, and that is why it is the majority of crime committed is by men. And that is why I have put specific emphasis to deal with situations and factors that have affected certain arms in our society, whether it be women, children, elderly, even animals. We have trivialized it for far too long. And I have no intention for any police officer to shirk his or her responsibility, which is why we turn now to have the online reporting to prevent what you just spoke about. We're aware that a woman will go into a police station, battered and bruised, 2 o'clock in the morning, and we have reports of an officer will tell the woman, well, why did you reach home this hour? Or why did you come dressed like this? We're aware of this. I can't change the past, but I can tell you, I can give the assurance that in the present and the future, it will no longer happen. And if so, that person is going to be reported, which is why, that I said, in the last 2 years, 80 odd police officers have been arrested, 60 have been suspended, and we intend to clean up the police service. But because we're using technology through online reporting, it will prevent that what you spoke about of police officers deliberately shirking their responsibility because of the few police officers who do not understand that you have to treat every single woman, child, elderly as a citizen, because we are the employees to each and every citizen of this country.
Commissioner, I just want to touch on another important topic that the Prime Minister spoke about on Saturday, the issue of regulating PH drivers. And what he said, that many of these drivers are not suited to be transporting people, having their vehicle used for hire. And a lot of crimes, as you would acknowledge, happen when people posing as PH drivers pick up women or men or children, and they end up dead or raped or in a ditch somewhere.
Well, I'm dealing with the whole aspect of the PH drivers. This is something that I think is a while now we are trying to work on that with the Ministry of Works in relation to how, and transport, in relation to how best we can really and truly bring these persons and regularize them in a point that we can in fact monitor them. There are some instances that the police officers may be aware of all the PH drivers, the residents may be aware of it, but there is something that is bigger than the police service that need to be done in order to deal with that particular issue. We will try our best to enforce the law as we can, and we will try our best to ensure through community policing aspect to know who are these PH drivers. Because as years ago we identified that in some rural areas and at certain times the only sort of transport persons will get are in fact persons who are PH drivers, and some of these drivers are in fact residents of these particular areas and are known by most of the persons. So it is something that is a national issue that we really need to sit around a table and come up with a particular solution. It's not just a police solution.
And coming back to the issue of pepper spray, other non-lethal forms of self-defense, maybe tasers, what is the police position if they arrest or find a young woman in a vehicle or on the street with a bottle of pepper spray right now, or a taser or a pen knife in a possession? would she be charged, or would the police use her discretion and say, this is for
self-protection? I'm going to hand over to Mr. Jacob on this now. Again, this goes back to the situation with pepper spray. You could have a tin of aerosol, and people have used that as a backup. The difference with using a tin of insect repellent or something, the spray itself, it wouldn't be as effective as pepper spray. But what the contents you have in this is no different. The fact is this is non-lethal. Unfortunately, it is, because it is of our country, for some strange reason, we see this as a tool, and we see this as a weapon. But if that is the case, well, then we should issue firearms. My personal view of this is that if this can be used as a mechanism to protect one female to escape, well, then so be it. We need to find avenues, especially for women, to defend themselves, to protect themselves, to escape. And that is where it is, when I spoke about women, they should be more willing to apply for a firearm. They have a right to apply just as a man, but the same thing with the pepper spray. So as it pertains, Darren, however, to tasers, it is something totally different. Tasers can be lethal. Tasers, you need a specific type of training. If you aim a taser at someone who's at the edge of the road or the river, and you hit them, they can die. They can drown, they can get hit by a car, you can have medical heart complications. So I will not go the way of issuing tasers to citizens. Police officers, they have to do a specific type of training before they are given tasers. Pepper spray is something straightforward. You hold, you fire. And again, I am aware of what you're speaking about, and I am aware, it has been brought to my attention, there are many women out there who have pepper spray. And it means that they're doing it because of desperation, because there's this perception that the state cannot protect them, so they need an avenue to protect themselves. And that's where it becomes very difficult for me now. I have to draw a line to understand emotion, and people are desperate to protect themselves. They're not walking around with pepper spray illegally because they intend to commit crime. They are walking with pepper spray because many women are fearful out there, and they need to protect themselves, which is why this is a matter that has been discussed the last few years, and I am bringing it to the forefront now. I am asking for women to be issued and have the authorization to carry pepper spray.
And lastly, Commissioner, on the issue of the Sexual Offenders Registry and it being public for people to be aware of who are these sexual offenders in their district community. They may be a taxi driver, they may be a school bus driver. Where has that reached with the TTPS, and can you give a timeline on its implementation?
A lot of persons, I'm looking at the social media for the last couple of days, and persons feel that once a person is charged for a sex offense, that they can automatically be registered on the sex offenders registry. That is not the case. The person must be charged, convicted, and the judge must make an order for that person to be placed on the sex offenders registry. We actually have the sex offenders registry posted. It's at https://sexoffenders.gov.tt/. But no one is posted on it today. So we are waiting for a judge to make the order, and then the person will be placed on the sex offenders registry.
Hi, Commissioner Sonal Lala from TDT News. I understand that the anti-kidnapping squad is currently investigating a report of a security guard being kidnapped, a 62-year-old security guard, a woman. Any information you can give us on this? I know it would be a sensitive issue at this time.
Definitely not. Yeah.
I just, I'm going to address you in relation to that aspect. When you ask about the sex offender registry, in fact, even though it is not available to the members of the public, the police service database is designed in such a way that we will be aware of all the persons who are charged for the various sexual offenses. And even though they are convicted and not deemed a sexual offender by the court, we'll also have that record. So it will be available to the police officers to assist them with their investigation.
All right, Mr. Jacob, based on that, what you said, right? I don't know if you will agree with me. If community policing is as effective as it should be, then the community should be aware of those people who are repeat sex offenders charged, not yet convicted, because we all know the period of time to get a conviction in this country is in excess of probably 10 years. So in that 10-year span, this person probably on bail, probably committing other offenses. How is the community to be alerted that, hey, this guy next door there is a known sex offender, as what has been reported in the Ashanti case?
Okay, Ms. Allen, she has the information that she could tell you.
There is nothing better than the community coming together and having knowledge. The thing about it is that the community, where persons are, they know each other. Persons are sure to know who are the thieves in the area, who are the rapists. You understand? So the community must look out for each other. Now, what you are alluding to, it means that the law would have to change. You understand? It will have to go back to cabinet so that what you want to be incorporated will be incorporated into the law. So until a judge, after the conviction, makes that order, we just have to wait.
Yeah. And again, going back to the criminal justice system, we have situations where the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service will launch our investigation, we'll do our intelligence, we'll make the arrest, we'll have charges laid, and then the very next day the person will go out on a couple $1,000s bail and be out for years waiting for the case to commence. Same like firearms, which I have spoken about at length. We catch someone with a firearm, he gets $5,000 bail, he goes out the next day, gets another firearm, and then continues his trade. And then when he kills people, we are blamed. It just to bring to the attention of the public, 2 persons that have been deemed as persons of interest dealing with a major investigation as it pertains to the death of a female. Guess what was the previous crime category of one of those offenses, those individuals? Sexual offense. But guess what? These things take place, we hold them for a sexual offense, they get bail, they go out the next day, they continue, and then blame the police. So we don't deal with the criminal justice system. We only try to enforce the law. And after we pass that line, that threshold, the criminal justice system, they have their job to do. If their job is to give them an immediate about turn to get back out into society, to commit further acts of violence, especially to women and children, it is very unfortunate that we are the ones that would usually be blamed, when we have already done our job to put them where they belong, which is out of our society.
Ms. Alleyne, I don't know if you might be willing to answer this question. When someone accused of a crime is incarcerated for a lengthy period awaiting trial, and probably being schooled by much more experienced criminals behind bars, and when they come back out, does the police have information to suggest that these people now want to seek some sort of revenge against society for their lengthy incarceration without a speedy trial? And do you see a higher number of repeat offenders from people like that?
Well, just as the Commissioner alluded to a while ago, that's a repeat offender. You know, so criminals, if they are not at the prison system and rehabilitated, we are not sure what is coming back out into society.
Yeah.
So we just have to prepare ourselves, put mechanisms in place, and be each other's keeper.
Darren, what you speak about is recidivism. We have one of the highest recidivism rates in this part of the world. And with that, it means that they are a revolving door for crime. They go into prison, they come out, sometimes even a more hardened, seasoned criminal to commit even more violent acts than what it is when they were actually incarcerated in the first place. But that is where we do work hand in hand. We do monitor individuals as much as possible, but it is obviously a matter of concern. But all of this is part of the criminal justice system. We can only do our part. We are not involved in rehabilitation. But obviously, you're correct. There is a very high degree of recidivism in this country.
Commissioner, this morning the country awoke another ghastly crime where 3 people were reportedly shot dead and torched in long circular DB. They seem to be of foreign nationality. Can you provide any further information on this offense and where the police has reached in terms of capturing those accused of committing it?
No, well, that's it. I mean, remember, I'm very particular when it comes to matters that are presently being investigated. I'm going to say very little, not to alert anyone as it pertains. But we are aware of the situation, obviously, and it is being thoroughly investigated.
Hi, Commissioner. You spoke to a sexual offences unit being formed. Can you give some information on that?
Yeah, you want to go ahead? That will be in about a few weeks, probably early in the new year, the sexual offences unit. Ms. Allen, you can elaborate on it.
Yes, just as how the gender-based violence operates, the sexual offences unit will operate in a similar fashion. We speak about victims who experience trauma, you know, because it's easier to train a special group, a smaller group within the organization to deal with these special victims than to train the 8,000 persons to have that mindset. Okay?
That's it? Okay, just before we close, just as it pertains to the Officer of the Week, I can call it Natasha Hussain. She sent a letter where she stated, "I am the sister of the deceased homicide victim, Christopher Hussain, and on behalf of my family, I would like to commend the commitment and hard work of both the Princestown Police, namely Sergeant Ram Logan, PC Bazio, and PC Dennis, along with all of the detectives and crime scene investigators of the Homicide Division Region 3, namely PC Noel, who worked my brother's case. The Princestown Police were persistent and worked tirelessly to apprehend both suspects, whilst the Homicide Division, along with their legal team, worked diligently and around the clock to collect evidence for this case. If all officers strive to be like these exemplary individuals, I have all confidence that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service can make all the difference in the quality of lives for citizens in Trinidad and Tobago. I know that this is just the beginning, but if anything, my brother's death has taught me to appreciate and be thankful. With that in mind, I would like to thank all the persons in law enforcement who have been working with my brother's case. God bless Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. And with this, I now, Mr. Jacob.